I'm Robin Amlôt of IBS Intelligence. You're listening to the IBS iViews podcast. With me today is Tamer Al Mauge, Managing Director at Codebase Technologies for the MENA, Pakistan and Bangladesh region. We're focusing on digital banking and neobanks in the Middle East. What's been the uptake of digitalization among banks in the Middle East?
Generally speaking, digital banking, is booming, with the incumbent banks offering what is the word that we're hearing, neo spin-offs, basically. So let's take an example in the United Arab Emirates, Live Neobank, which is by Emirates NBD, right? We can give another example of Mashriq Neo, also by Mashriq Bank, ADCB Hayat, and the list goes on and so on and so forth. So, these spin-off neobanks are examples of how players are actually pivoting these days. Neobanks in particular, Robin, have grown over 20 if we look closer into the region. And if we look at the number of people that they're servicing, it's around 15 million people. And that's not a shy number at all, in my humble opinion. Neobanks in particular have grown over this big number of spin-off banks, and over 90% of customers, for example, in the United Arab Emirates, their first choice is to switch to digital banking due to the effect that these neobanks are giving in terms of new fresh look and services. Over 4.5 million people in Saudi Arabia are under, let's say, STC Pay, which is another neobank, if you like, which is valued at about $1 billion today. And the revenue is growing through that. And if you look at a CAGR rate of more than 70% in Turkey by itself. So, I mean, yes, it has been big around the region.
The Middle East traditionally has been viewed by some as being overbanked.
That's true in a way, Robin. And, when we say there's a congested line of banks servicing in this part of the world, that's true. But again, we're looking at what those traditional banks are doing. And, from my conversations in the region, when I talk to medium size, small size, or let's say tier one banks per se, and, they ask the question and they say, what should we do? Should we just stay the way we are and just enhance on our mobile banking proposition? Or should we spin off with a new fresh name, fresh look, with the whole beautiful features that can be held on a mobile or a digital channel, if you like? So the answer is yes. They decide to spin it off in a fresh new look, keeping the traditional bank in place, and then looking at the future. So we're looking at the future generation Z, the millennials, and looking at the future 5-10 years down the line. If they don't move, and if they don't go and do those spin-offs, then it's useless, because they won't be able to acquire more from the market or look at those generation Z that's coming up to the market and to the working force that will need to be banked, not to mention the unbanked as well. So there's a lot of room for growth, but I think it's a challenge for those financial institutions if they stay within their existing feel and look and name. It is trusted, and people want to stay banking with those financial institutions, but everyone is moving towards convenience, and convenience is key. And the new generation does not want except for convenience and fast manner in doing their transactions.
Are the key markets the ones I might guess they are? Because traditionally the banking focus in the Middle East has been the United Arab Emirates, it's been Bahrain. Is that where this embrace by the banks of digitalization has been taking place, or are there other regions that are other countries that are key markets?
There are markets that I've been looking at, and they go over beyond the UAE or the Kingdom of Bahrain. We're looking at Egypt, that has at least one. For example, Dubai. You have Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that has STC, as I mentioned, and few others. Israel per se, two. So Turkey is there, Iraq is there, and now even Jordan. We're working on a proposition to serve the Jordanian and the Iraqi market. So they're scattered all over the region and beyond, probably. So no, we're seeing them pop out here and there, and it's growing. The demand is growing, and I think others, while they're trying to assess their situation and take decisions in which direction to go, Others are just coming up, and I think they're losing momentum and time, and that's why everyone is following. Even if it doesn't serve their purpose, they're trying to do some sort of something that, they won't lag or look, be behind others.
Within the Middle East region, then, quite a broad range of marketplaces from Egypt and the North African coast to the Gulf, and then up to Turkey in the north and so on. Are there any regional differences in the way that institutions are asking for technology, in what they're requiring of technology?
It does not seem to be a regional issue or problem. It really depends on what technology provider one have. So it would differ from one place to the other, and what technology is being picked and how it's used and how it's utilized. But in my opinion, it doesn't seem to be a regional difference.
There is, of course, one key difference in banking in the Middle East, which is very much of concern to people there, and it's conventional banking or Islamic banking or both.
The answer is, when you look at, can we accommodate for both? I would say yes, because we've seen it. So you see a mix of both. This is a dynamic thing that is actually called dual banking system. And where do you see this more often? In places such as Saudi Arabia. We see it in Bahrain. So we see it in the United Arab Emirates. So it's in existence, and it's working actually.
When you say it's in existence and it's working, is there still a shift towards more Islamic banking? Is there more demand for that? Is there more take-up?
The demand is still there, I would say, yes. I would say in countries like, for example, the other day we were having a discussion around Sudan after the embargo and lifting, the sanctions. So the country is opening up, and big players are being seen on the ground. Trust is there, investment is there, fintechs are there. So what we're seeing is a shift towards a conventional banking, which is the other way around, right? So because Islamic banking is there. So there's interest to go towards conventional banking. Again, we look at, the GCC in specific, and you have a mix of different types of banks that some do conventional, some do Islamic, but again, some do both together. So they serve both spectrums of what people need and look for.
What happens next? What's the next step? What's the next evolution? What comes next for banks in the Middle East?
Open banking is one of the things that we're looking at. We're looking at different mindsets where financial institutions at the time being are put in a place where they need to decide to go out to the market with an open mind, to collaborate with fintechs and with companies to be able to bring them on board rather than competing with them. We look at countries like Bahrain, where the central bank is opening up for sandboxing and letting financial institutions, especially fintechs, come in and try out what they're doing, and then they're matchmaking them with some banks to be able to do something different on the ground, and from there open up to the rest of the region. So definitely open banking is one of them. And yesterday I was having a discussion on something really exciting, which is artificial intelligence when it comes to payments, let's say, within that space as well. So I think the coming years are going to be exciting. We're going to be seeing a lot of players giving great financial services, whether it's in payment or whether it's in financial services in general. So yes, I do see artificial intelligence taking place. I do see open banking happening. I see a lot of initiatives coming from banks working with fintechs to give a better service, and cutting the time factor in less than half, because changing how banks are working today would take longer than anticipated. And there's a lot of financial burden, time factor, resources, a lot for banks to handle if they want to fast and be agile as fintechs are today. And fintechs, are seen in this part of the world being even regulated by the central bank.
I think I should just say to anybody listening that other sandboxes are available in the Middle East. In the UAE.
So we're seeing actually, you're right. We're seeing that happening on the ground in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, as I mentioned, in the UAE. So things are moving rapidly, and I think COVID, had a big role to play here. I know a lot of those digital aspirations or that has been taking place even before COVID. But I think what happened during COVID is that it accelerated and exploded the whole experience. And I think a lot of fintechs took advantage of that momentum and were able to be on the ground in a faster way.
Thank you very much, Tamer Al Mauge, Managing Director at Codebase Technologies for MENA, Pakistan and Bangladesh.